You turn on an old game tonight. Not for the game itself, for the menu. The screen loads. A simple title sits in the center. A cursor blinks beside the word Start. You nudge it down. A soft blip plays. You nudge it again. A second blip, slightly higher in pitch. Something in your chest loosens. You haven't played a single second. You haven't won anything. But you already feel calmer than you did 5 minutes ago. You tell yourself it's nostalgia. A trip back to simpler days. But the real answer is far stranger than memory. Your brain isn't responding to the past. It's responding to a structure, and that structure was never built to make you nostalgic. It was built, almost by accident, to make you feel safe in a way that can actually be measured. Start with the number 7. In 1956, a psychologist named George Miller published a paper that would quietly shape decades of design. He found that the average human working memory can reliably hold about 7 items at once, give or take 2. Beyond that, your brain starts dropping things, it gets overwhelmed, it loses track. Old game menus almost never broke that rule. Start, options, load game, quit. Maybe 1 or 2 more. 5 items, 6 at most. Your brain could hold the entire menu in its head without trying. Why does that matter so much? Because a mind that isn't straining to keep up is a mind that isn't on alert. Cognitive overload doesn't just slow you down. It reads physiologically as a low-grade threat. Too many choices, too much information, and your nervous system quietly shifts into a state of vigilance. A 6-item menu never asked that of you. It let your guard all the way down before you'd even pressed a button. Now add the second ingredient, certainty. A design researcher named Don Norman spent his career studying something he called feedback. Every action you take in a well-designed object, he argued, should produce an immediate, unambiguous response. Press a button, the button clicks. Flip a switch, the light turns on. Without that feedback, your brain can't tell if its action worked at all, and that uncertainty is exhausting in a way most people never notice. Old game menus were feedback machines. Press down, the cursor moves, and a blip confirms it. Press select, the screen changes instantly. There was no spinner, no loading bar that lied about how long it would take, no ambiguity about whether your input landed. Think about how rare that has become. How often do you tap something today and just wait, unsure if it registered? That tiny gap of uncertainty is doing something to you. It's small, but it adds up. Here's where it gets stranger. In 1984, a researcher named Roger Ulrich studied recovering hospital patients and found something unexpected. Patients with a window facing trees healed faster, needed less pain medication, and reported lower stress than patients facing a brick wall. The difference wasn't the view itself. It was predictability. A tree shifting gently in the wind is a known pattern. A blank wall holds no information at all, and the brain, left without cues, fills that blankness with low-level unease. A menu with 5 fixed options and an instant blip for every action is the digital equivalent of that window. Nothing about it changes unexpectedly. Nothing demands your attention you didn't ask to give. Your nervous system reads that consistency as evidence that nothing is wrong, and it relaxes accordingly. You weren't comforted by pixels. You were comforted by a pattern your body could trust. So why does almost nothing feel like that anymore? Here's the twist. It isn't an accident that modern interfaces lost this feeling. It was traded away on purpose. Decades before any of this, a behavioral scientist named B.F. Skinner ran experiments on pigeons in boxes, pressing levers for food. He discovered something counterintuitive. Pigeons that received a reward every single time they pressed the lever eventually pressed it less. But pigeons that received a reward only sometimes, on an unpredictable schedule, pressed the lever obsessively. Uncertainty, it turned out, was more compelling than certainty. It kept them coming back. That single finding became the backbone of slot machines, then notifications, then infinite scrolling feeds. Modern software isn't designed to feel safe. It's designed to feel uncertain enough that you keep checking, keep scrolling, keep refreshing, chasing a reward that might or might not arrive on the next pull. An old game menu had the opposite goal. It wasn't trying to keep you there. It was trying to get you oriented and then get out of your way. 5 options. 1 sound per action. Total honesty about what would happen next. It had nothing to gain from your anxiety, so it never manufactured any. That's the part that should stop you. The discomfort you feel scrolling through a modern app isn't a personal failing. It isn't a sign you've lost focus or grown impatient. It's a measurable, designed response to an environment built on unpredictability, layered on top of a brain that evolved to crave the opposite. And the calm you feel booting up an old cartridge isn't weakness for the past either. It's your nervous system recognizing for a few seconds an interface that respects its limits. 7 items or fewer. Instant feedback. No surprises hiding behind the next click. Notice what this means about the spaces you spend your time in now. Every app, every dashboard, every menu you touch today is making a quiet decision about whether to calm your nervous system or keep it slightly on edge. Most of them, knowingly or not, have chosen the second option because uncertainty is profitable in a way that certainty never was. You don't have to accept that as the only way forward. You can ask a different question of the tools you use. Does this interface tell me clearly what just happened? Does it respect how much my mind can actually hold at once? Or is it quietly counting on my uncertainty to keep me here longer than I meant to stay? Some of the best modern designers already know this. They borrow back the old rules, fewer choices, instant confirmation, no manufactured suspense because they understand that calm isn't outdated. It's just rare, and rarity makes it valuable again. So tonight, when you load up that old game and hear the cursor blip down the menu, you're not chasing a memory. You're not chasing simpler graphics or a simpler time. You're recognizing for a moment what it feels like to be inside a system that was never trying to unsettle you in the first place. You didn't notice it back then. You don't have to call it nostalgia now. You can call it what it actually is. The last interface that ever told you the truth about what would happen next.